Okay, we're up to Chav Zayin Amid Beis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. Very, you say this stick of daf, Chav Ches in Rosh Hashanah. We could spend a long time on this daf, but of course, we won't. That's really good, but we won't. Says the Hatakela Teicha Bar Teicha Dus. We said if you hear the kol, you're yaitza, but if you hear the kol avor of the echo, you're not yaitza. Amrafun Lo Shanu. The ones you're not yaitza, if you're outside the pit, then if you're outside the pit, you have to make sure you hear the clear sound of the shofar rather than the echo of the shofar. Those who are in the bar, yatsu, they would be yaitza because they're hearing the sound of the shofar. Tanya Nami Hachi, a brayso that substantiates Rabbi Huna's saying, someone blows in a bar or a dus, a cistern, Yoitza, you be Yoitza. I Fred Gemara Vatnam Yoitza. How do you reconcile the two? One says Yoitza, one says you're not. No problem. Shmami no kid Rav Huna. When are you Yoitza? When you're in the pit. When you're not Yoitza, you're out of the pit. It could be Rami Lamir, but those have the same dialogue, but they have it in terms of stira. Did not Hatakel Techabar Techadus La Yotza. I Vatnan Yoitza. So again, the same dialogue, however, not as a statement, but as a contradiction. Rav Huna says, like Kash, it's not a problem. That's when you're not Yaitza. That's when you are Yaitza. Omar Rava says, Rava, Shama mixes the Kia bibar, who mixes the Kia al Svasa bar. You hear part of it in the bar and part of it outside Yaitza. You'll be Yaitza. Mixas the Kia Koidim Shial and Amura Shachar, who mixes the Kia La'achat Shial Amura Shachar, La Yaitza. So Rava says, if you hear part in the bar, part not, you'll be yaitza. But if you hear before Alois, which is not, if it's Amud HaShachar, before Amud HaShachar, there's no chiyuv, it's not daytime, you would not be yaitza. Amalei Baya, Maishna Hasan Debina Kula Tekiya Bechiyuva Veleka, Achnami Bina Kula Tekiya Bechiyuva Veleka. 1 second. So Abai doesn't understand why. The reason why you're not yaitza if you blow before Alois is because you're not going ahead and be yaitza in the same time frame. So too over here, you're not being yotz in the same locale. Outside the bar, l'chayr is no good. Says Gemara, how can you compare the two? Hasam lailo lavsman chiyuvahu klal. Before Amud HaShachar, which is we call night, is not as man chiyuv at all. Hacha bar makom chiyuvahu lo'oisena oimdim bebar. But bar is man chiyuv to those who are standing in the bar. So memela you're yaitza because it's viable. So the only problem now would be if you're outside the bar, mixas in the bar, mixas outside the bar, l'chayri, the part outside the bar, you're not yaitza, guys, right? You only yaitza the part in the bar. So mistama, we're going back to the dialogue we had the other day. If you hear the beginning of a tekiya, you don't have to hear the cipher of the tekiya. That's the only reason you should be yaitza, because pashtus, you're not hearing the zman of the tekiya from inside the bar, because you're hearing mixas. In other words, I give you a Zman Chiyuv. Mixus was in the bar. Mixus was out of the bar. How could you be yaitza? You didn't hear a hole. It must be the little part inside. It might be from outside. So Rava answered Abaye's question, two shtel from time versus bar. By time, there is no Chiyuv. So Mameli, you can't be yaitza when there's no Chiyuv. By bar, the people in the bar, it's a Chiyuv. It's a viable time. The Chiyuv is there. The problem is your location. You don't need to hear the whole thing. You can hear a little bit of it. Says the Gemara, the name of the Sava Rabu or Rava in this case. Shama Saif Tekiya below Techilas Tekiya. If you hear the end of a Tekiya without the beginning Yaitza, Umemela Techilas Tekiya below Saif Tekiya Yatza, right? That's our case now. You're hearing the beginning of Tekiya from the bar and mixes outside the bar. Tashma, this is the same dialogue. We had this Gemara the other day, guys. Taka B'Rishayna. Again, you have 3 levels. You have 3 levels. Okay, so L'chayra, Rav is of the opinion that if you hear a partial tekiya in the beginning, it would be for the end. Now here we have a problem. Again, we blow 3 times malchiyas, 3 times zcharinos, and 3 times shayfris, but they blew 1, 1, 1. So now you have the first set. So you blew the first one, the first tekiya. You blew shvarm trua. Then you blew the last tekiya of the first set, and you extended it what? To being the first tekiya of the second set. So the malchiyos, the last one malchiyos, you want to be the first one to shayfris. Now, if you're telling me that l'chayr you can hear a beginning and an end, let's count it as 2. But we don't count it as two. Says the Gemara, Tashma, Taka B'Rishayna, you go ahead and blow a regular tkiya, umashach b'shniya kishtayim, and the second tkiya after the shvarim and trua, you elongate to be long enough for the last one in the first set and the first one in the second set. Ein biyodei el achas, you only have one. But 1 second, v'amai tisalik le betarte, it should be enough for two. Just like you hear the beginning and the beginning suffices. So let the beginning suffice for the beginning of that, the end of that one, and the beginning of this one. We don't go ahead and divide it to kia. There's no such thing as dividing it to kia. You can't divide it to kia. Tashma, again, we spoke out of Haigon the other day, fellas, that they used to blow in clandestine places. So they're blowing either in a bar or a dus, or a pitis is a big barrel. Im kol shayfa shama yatzim kol avara shama la yatza. V'amai leifit b'kilas tekiya mekami de la arve kola. Let's say what you should be yatza. What you should be yatza with the first sound. Before you get an echo, you do hear the sound. If you're telling me the beginning of the keel, we might see me in the end. So before it becomes the echo, you heard it. You should be yatza. Just like mitzas, it should work. Says the Gemara, Ella, let's put an Ella in here. Ella kikama rabba b'takeya v'oilo nafshe. Here's what's happening. We're not speaking about a guy who's one here's partially in the bar and partially out of the bar. We're speaking about the same guy. He started blowing in the bar and then he walked out of the bar. So he blew in the bar and out of the bar. So that guy's yaitza. Fred the Gemara, I remember what's the chiddush? He's blowing. He hears inside the bar and outside the bar. As he goes, he's taking his head out. So really, fellas, in MS, you have to hear beginning and end. There's no such thing. There's no mitzas in bar and mitzas out of the bar. Meaning, he didn't hear part in the bar and part out of the bar. He heard it all. There was never a hefsek. He heard it in the bar and he came out of the bar with it. But as he's coming out of the bar, the shofar is in the bar. So you would think maybe the shofar is in the bar and you're not getting the full sound of the shofar. You're getting the reverberations of the walls of the bar. The kama arav kala kamash malon, that we're not worried about that. Kamash malon, you're not worried about that. Okay, the next sugya, guys, is a sugya rucha, very, very big sugya, famous sugya. Let me just a few ideas. We know there's something called me'ila, which means you have hano b'shoigeg from kachem. There's me'ila is only b'shoigeg, and you're having enough from kachem. We know there's various type of kachem. There's kachem beregabayis, and then there's the things that have kachem aguf. The kachem aguf are of two sorts: kachem kalim and kachem kedoshim. Kachem kedoshim, right away there's a din of me'ila while it's alive. Kachem shlomim, we pass my Rabbi Yossi Aglili as mom and bailim until after the shchicha, and then you're zoichem mishulchem gabayas. So until then, there's no din of me'ila in a shlomim, which is kachem kalim. Who are in any other kachem kalim? That's first base. Again, me'ila by kachem kedoshim, no me'ila by kachem kalim. So now, a second component is when I perform a mitzvah, what happens if I have a no in the performance of the mitzvah? Is that a problem or not? Can I blow the tekiah? Can I use an oila? Can I use an oila? Can I use a shlomim? Can I use a shayfa of avodah zara? How does it play out isuri hana? How does it play out me'ila? That's under discussion for the next blot or so. Not the next blot, but then it's the next amid. A very lumdish amid. Says the Gemara. Rav Yehuda. The shayfa shel oila, says Rav Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, the Talmud of Rav, and after Rav's Patiri, he learned with Rabbi. He learned with Shmuel. You shouldn't blow with the shofar. Lichatchila, don't blow with the shofar shaloila, right? Lo yitaka. Vim taka yaitza. And if you do blow, you yaitza. You yaitza. The shofar shel shlamim lo yitaka. You shouldn't blow with the shofar of a shlamim. Vim taka. But if you do blow, lo yaitza. In fact, the obvious question. What's the difference between an oila and a shlamim? My timer, oila bas me'ilahi. An oila is kachik kedashim. Therefore, it's subject to me'ila. And kivin de ma'al, once you were moil by blowing the shofar, you used the shofar, you had enough from the shofar. Again, what is me'ila? Having enough from hegdish. Right now, guys, we're of the opinion that doing a mitzvah is hana. Right now, when the havmin of the Gemara, guys, mitzvah lahonas nitnu. So if I have hana by being yotzeh the mitzvah, then what happens? So since I'm yotzeh the mitzvah, it goes out. So therefore I'm yotzeh. But however, on the other hand, keeping the malba nafik le'lechulin. Once I'm moil, it goes lechulin. That's it. Automatically, kachim becomes chulin. Shlomim, the lav b'nei meila ninu, a shlomim that's not a b'nei meila, isurin hu derachav bahu. There's an issa that we go place on top of it. Okay, outside, what happened over here? The guy went ahead, he went over to an animal, and he cut off the horn. If the animal was geshachten already, then it goes to the kohen. There's no shiloh, be no din meila. Guys, you hear? It's speaking, the animal's still alive. Since the animal is still alive, there's a din of meila in the horn, and you cut off the horn. Again, if it's dead, it goes to the kohen. So, and now you went ahead and blew it. You had anah. You were moil. Once you're moil, it goes to chulin. Since it's a shayfer of chulin, I'm yaitza. Masha'enkin is shlamim. A shlamim is aser. This would be a case of mitzvah ba ba'avera de'araisa. In other words, there's a mitzvah ba derabbanan, the second day of Yontav by Lulav. Then there's a mitzvah ba ba'avera, that's de'araisa. This would be a mitzvah ba ba'avera. You can't go ahead and use it. Says that's where the Ritva learns. I think so. Therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, shlamim. Since you can't use it and it's asa, you can't be yaitza with it because there's no shlamim. It remains. There's no meila. It remains asa. The meila, I can't be yaitza with it. That's the Gemara according to the first place. So, Oila, I'm Yaitza, this I'm not Yaitza. Now, guys, when am I Yaitza, the mitzvah of Mila? When I'm the mitzvah of Shaifa? L'chayra, you're holding mitzvah lehenis, right? This is going mitzvah lehenis, yeah? So watch. If mitzvah is lehenis, l'chayra, I'm only Yaitza afterwards, correct? 1 second. So when did it go out? After I had anah. After I had anah, I used this thing that was kodesh. The havamina is the following: since I had anah, it goes out l'chulin, and therefore I'm yaitz to the mitzvah. The only time it goes to chulin is after I'm yaitz to the mitzvah. The hana is being yaitz to the mitzvah, so it didn't go out first, and then I'm using a shayfer of chulin. I always use the shayfer that's asa because it only was moil after I had anah. Because mitzvah's a holis nitnu. I had anah, you moil, but 1 second. Good. When I used it, it was a shayfer of an oila. I shouldn't be yaitza. As I read the Gemara. Says the Gemara inside. Maskala Rava, Emas moil, when are you moil? Basa de tocha. What's the havamina, guys? Guys, what's the havamina? Mitzvah lahanis nitnu. When am I yaitza? After I'm yaitza the mitzvah. Then there's hana, because I was yaitza the mitzvah. But only then and only then did it go l'chulin. I was yotzei the mitzvah with what? With a shayfa of an ayla. I should be mile. It should be good. Kika taka be surka taka. So when I was blowing it, I was blowing the shayfa that's asa. The whole reason we said it's mutter according to Rabbi Yehuda was because it was yotzei l'chulin and I was blowing with a shofar of chulin. In fact, I wasn't blowing with a shofar of chulin. I was blowing with a shofar of hegdish. I shouldn't be yotzei the mitzvah. Ella lashon charata. Now we're having a change of heart. Amarava echad zeh ve'echad zeh lo yaitza. They're both not yaitza. You're not yaitza the oila and you're not yaitza the shlamim. Hada amarava echad zeh ve'echad zeh yaitza. Whether it's an oila or a shlamim, he argues in Rabbi Yehuda. He says whether it's an oila or a shlamim, yaitza. You want to know why? Mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. Mitzvahs are not for the purpose of hana. Right? Mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. Says Rashi. Mitzvah lav lehenis nitnu li Yisrael li yos kiyumam lehem hana. The purpose of fulfilling a mitzvah is not for your pleasure. Ela lo oil al savareim nitnu. A mitzvah was placed on us like a burden. Your performance of a mitzvah, you may have hana, but that doesn't make a difference. Your hana is for the schar for the next world. Your hana is doing the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the etzem mitzvah is not for your hana. The etzem mitzvah is not for your hana. The etzem mitzvah is an oil that's placed upon us. Memela, if mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu, guys, very geschmack. If I blow with the carbon of oila, I'm yaitza. Forget Me'ilah. Nothing to do with Me'ilah. Why? Because since I don't have Anah, it still remains Kodesh. It never stopped being Kodesh. By the Shlomim, it never stopped. It never began. By the Oila, it never left. They're both still Kodesh. There's no Me'ilah. Listen to this, guys. If I would go ahead and blow my shofar, I go over the animal, I cut it off. I blow it, and now I put it down, and Benji Greenfield goes ahead and takes it and starts picking his ear with it. He be moil, he be over on Mila. Because my action of being Hana did not take it out. Because it's in a mitzvah. And to leave Kachim, it has to be what? It has to be that you had Hana. I didn't have Hana. It's a mitzvah. Benji had Hana. I didn't have Hana. Tremendous, a whole different lumdis. Rabbi Yehuda hold mitzvah lehenis didn't know. Therefore, he made a chilik between what? Between Oila and Shlomim. Says Rabbi, there's no difference. Mitzvah lav lehenis didn't know, and that's the rest of the sugi of this evening. Mitzvah lav lehenis didn't know, and Memela, they remain kodesh, and I'm not moil, and it doesn't make a difference. I'm yaitzu because mitzvah lav lehenis didn't know. That's Rabbi's chiddush. That's Rabbi's chiddush. And now we're going to take that and apply it to different venues. We're going to take and apply it to different venues. Guys, you all good? Everyone's with me? Let's get a reaction. A little thumbs up. You're all good.
Is kol something different though? Kol, there's no hano with a kol. Unlike hano.
I'll give you a marmakan. Ayin Rambam Lechem Mishnah Perik Aleph Halacha Gimel. Look at the Lechem Mishnah there. He discusses it. Okay.
Say that again. I'll look. Say it again, please.
The Lechem Mishnah and the Rambam Perik Aleph from Hilchas Shofar Halacha Gimel. It's a long piece. Go to the end of the piece. He discusses it. It's beyond the scope of the share. We're not discussing it now. I'll give you. I saw it today. Now, says the Gemara. Hechi's asking l'chayra. We know by re'iyah and by koil there's no din of me'ilah. So why are we starting in the first place? Could be it's only the Rabbana, but you'll see it. You'll see the piece there. Maskul. Okay, so it says the Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda says Rav Yehuda. Now, guys. Rabbi Yehuda says, "V'shayfa shalad v'ydazara lo yitaka v'imtaka yotza." This is a problem. Why would you be yotza? Can I have enough of my v'ydazara? No, right? You can't. Who's saying this? Rabbi Yehuda. What did Rabbi Yehuda hold? He held of oila not, yes, shlomim not. He held mitzvah lahanis didn't know. So they have to change the gersa here. They say it's Rava talking. Because right over here, the reason why you can use it by the Zara is because Lav Lahenis didn't know. And Rabbi Yehuda hold Lahenis didn't know. So just to be a little, instead of just reading along and not thinking, be aware that there's a gersa change over here. That they say, many Mefarshim say, it's Rava who said this, because Rabbi Yehuda held Mitzvah Lahenis didn't know. So, of a shayfa by the Zara, you talk of him, talk a yatsa. The shayfa shalir nidachas, the shayfa of a city, that majority of the city did avodah zara. Majority of the city did avodah zara. Lo yitaka. You shouldn't go ahead and blow it. Vim taka, and if you do blow it, lo yatsa. My timer, you might remember this from Lulav Agazel. Ereni dachas ketute michtas shiura. Ereni dachas, guys, is ketute michtas shiura. The shear is what is speaking. What it's not. There's no shear. It's considered like not there. Therefore, I can't use the lulav shalashera of shalani dachas. Shalashera of Moshe, Nidachas. So, okay, guys, you good? Amarava, extending this din of mitzvah lav lehenis netu. Hamuda haname chaveroi. I say that I can't have enough from Ari Bacon. I can't drink his liquor. I can't have enough from Ari Bacon. It's it. Yeah, he's happy. Anyway, so I can't have enough from Ari Bacon. Mutal koiloi the kirshal mitzvah. Right? Let's say Ari Bacon blows a shofar, I could be yaitza. I'm not have enough from him. Who cares? Mitzvah lav lehenis nindu, right? So even though I'm muda hanar and I can't have enough from him, by extension I could be yaitza in the mitzvah because mitzvah lav lehenis nindu. Hamuda hanar mi shofar. If I'm muda hanar from a shofar, I take Benji shofar to say I don't want to have any hanar from Benji shofar. Mutal tkoya by tequila shal mitzvah. I can blow it tequila shal mitzvah. I can blow it. I can use it. I was muda hanar not to have enough from it. Mitzvahs lav lehenis ninu, an extension of Rabbi's din. A perfect example of what mitzvah lav lehenis ninu. V'amar Rava, hamuda name chaveroi Mazalov mechatos b'yemos hageshamim, avalo b'yemos hachama. Now we know that a person has tummy tumas mace on the third day and seventh day of his tumah. He needs paraduma spitzed upon him. Okay, so now if I go ahead and I'm muda enough from a person, I can't have enough from the person. I say I wouldn't have enough from Yankel. Yankel spritzes it upon me. So now it's taking care of my tahira, and it's the winter, and I don't want to get wet. So I'm not having any physical hana. No problem. Mitzvah lav lehenis nidnu. The mitzvah of being mitahar is lav lehenis, and I'm not having hana what from the cooling off effect because it's the winter and I'm cold. How about in the summer? So how about the summer, guys? In the summer, I'm having hana. Why? Not the hana of the mitzvah of being tahar, the cooling off process of the water. The mele, you can't do it because then I was mudana from Yaakov, and I'm having enough from Yaakov. Hamudana me'ayin, person is mudana from a fountain, from a place where you can go to a mikvah. Toivel by tefillah shel mitzvah, b'yemos hageshamim, avlo b'yemos hachama. Same concept, right? In the winter, yes, because it's not geschmack to be in there. The whole purpose you're going is for the mitzvah, and mitzvah lav lehenis nu. In the summer, where there's the secondary aspect of what of having hana, then what you would not be able to go ahead and use that ma'ayim because you would hana. Shochalei alavu d'shmuel kafoy v'achal matzah. If someone they force him, kafu they force him v'achal matzah, and they eat matzah, yatza, you yatza, kafu v'achal matzah. Someone forces you to eat matzah, you yatza. Mitzvah. Now this is where the mitzvah tzrichas kavana now. We're switching gears. Do you need kavana for the mitzvah? Someone's going to go over here and it's forcing you to eat what? Forcing you to eat. And in that case, what? You would be yatza. You would be yatza. Kafuman. Who went ahead and forced you? Ilema kafu shade. Let's say it was a ruach ra or a demon. Vatanya. Eat them chalim. Sometimes you're healthy. Eat them shaita. Sometimes you're foolish. Kishu chalim harihuka b'keach. When he's healthy, he's like b'keach. L'chol devarov. Kishu shaita harihuka shaita l'chol devarov. So l'chari, you won't be yaitza. If it's a shade, you won't be yaitza. Because you're shaita at that time when the shade takes control over you. Either the ruach ra or shade mamish. Some Ravashi, shekafu parsiyim. The Persians go ahead. Says Rashi, shekafu parsiyim. V'afagav shlein niskaven lotzes yidei chayva matzah. Even though you weren't mechavein, belel rishon shel pesach yotza. Even though you weren't mechavein to be yotza on the first night of Pesach yotza. So we're switching gears now, going from mitzvah lav lehenis to the new whether mitzvah tzrichas kavana or not. So based upon this, you would say mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana. Mitzvahs do not need kavana. So there's a very famous kasha over here. It's a pashut kasha. Why of all goyim they pick at the Persians? Why don't they just say a goy forced you, an akam, kafa akam? Why are they picking at the Persians? So I saw a wonderful pshat in the shiurim mitziyom b'halacha. This is what he says. He says there's a daya that if you eat matzah without inclining, you're not yotza. You need that seva. And there's a daya in the Gemara. If you go ahead and eat matzah without a seva, you're not yotza. The Gemara in Brachas and Mefalus says we had different midas derecheretz from the Persians. One of them that they ate the haseva. So Ken Zayin guys, it's geschmack. The reason why they went ahead, they picked Persians over here to avert the problem of what? The seva problem. It's a Persian, there's going to be a seva. And regarding mitzvahs tzrichas kavana, mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana. And you don't have to worry about the inclination problem because why? We're inclining because we're in Persian, the Persians incline. Very nice pshat. Amar Rav Zoysa Meres, we see from here, Hatakeil Lishir, a person is blowing the shear for Zemer, right? The Zemer, he's blowing this, right? Yaitza, he'd be Yaitza. Why? Because mitzvah saying it's tzrichas kavana. So you don't need kavana, and you're blowing. Now, let's establish, before we do the sugya, 3 levels. There's the best level, where you're doing the maisa, and you're having kavana for the mitzvah. Second level, I'm mechavim for the maisa, but I don't have in mind the mitzvah. And third level, I'm not mechavim for the maisa at all. I'm misasek. I'm not mechavim for the maisa at all. Only levels 2 and 3. Not level 1 for sure works. Level 2 is our Gemara now. Level 2, mitzvah tzrichas kavana, but I am mechaven for the action. Level 3, you're not yaitza because you weren't mechaven for the action at all. Again, 3 levels. 1, kavana for the action and mitzvah. 2, kavana for the action. 3, no kavana for the action at all. When you're mechaven, when you're blowing the share, you're mechaven for the action. It's level 2. I'm not mechaven for the mitzvah, but I am mechaven for the action. Therefore, if you hold mitzvahs and it's tzrichas kavana, you will be yaitza because I was mechaven gufa for the action itself. Okay, says the Gemara. Pshita haino hach l'chayra, being takei l'shir is the same thing as what? As having matzah stuff down your throat, which is you're mechaven for the action of eating, but not the action what of mitzvah. Over there, the bottom line is at the end of the day, there's going to be matzah at the bottom of in his throat. It's going to eat matzah. You're supposed to eat matzah and you eat matzah, therefore you're yaitza. Aval hacha zichrein truaksiv. Over here it says zichrein trua. You need a zikaron of trua. V'hai misasek ba'almahu, and this would be a level of misasek. Kamash malon, that's not. Says Rashi, Kamash malon, the African misasek who yaitza, the mitzvah and tzrichas kavana. Even though he was misasek legabe the mitzvah, since he was machavin for the action of what? Of blowing the shofar, be yaitza. Now, Alma, what do we see from this Gemara, from Rabbi's two Piskei Halachas? We see from matzah and we see from shofar, that the bashir, that mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana. We see he holds that mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana. Because if they need kavana, you won't be yaitza the matzah, and you won't be yaitza tkiyah shofar. Esvei, hayikoyer b'Torah, someone's reading the Torah. V'giyaz mana mikra, and he reaches the time of Kriya Shema. Im kiven liboy, if he's mechaven to be yatza, im lav la yatza. My lav kiven liboy lotzeis does not mean that he's mechaven level 1, for the action and what and the mitzvah. Loy likrois, he's mechaven for level 2, just for the action of kriya, but he wasn't mechaven for the mitzvah. Nonetheless, he yatza. Again, this is a very good way of understanding level 1, level 2, guys. It explains things very clearly. Right? Likreis means I was mechaven for the kriya. I was mechaven for the act of kriya. Memela am yaitza the mitzvah. Why? Because I don't need kavanah for the mitzvah. It says likreis hakakari. It says he's mechaven likreis. It says likreis hakakari. It says b'kayru lagia. It's speaking where he's kayru lagia. If he's reading, then he's reading. In other words, the havmin if he's reading for the purpose of the mitzvah. It says no, he's reading lagia. He's reading to go ahead. He's stumbling in the words. In other words, he's going along. He's not mechaven really for the mitzvah. He's just reading to go ahead and correct the Sefer Torah. So he doesn't have kavana, but he does have kavana for the kriya. You'll be yaitza. Tashma, our Mishnah. The person's passing by the back of Beis Knesses, or his house was next to the Beis Knesses. V'shama kol shofar, and he hears the voice of the shofar. Oy kol Megillah, or the Megillah being read. In kiven liba yaitzav im lav la yatza. My lav in kiven liba lotzeis, that is mechavein for to be yaitzav the mitzvah level 1. It says malay lishmaya, he's mechavein to hear level 2, not the mitzvah, but the act of hearing. Lishmaya v'shama. What do you mean kaven? What do you mean he's mechavein to hear? He is hearing, just like you said before. What do you mean mechavein for reading? He is reading. It says no, he's mechavein. It's speaking. Sava chamor ba'almahu. In other words, he could have thought that it's the braying of a donkey. So you need him to discern the sound of a donkey versus the kriya of the Megillah. But he wasn't mechaben for the mitzvah. No, Rabbi is asking, what's Akasha, guys? Says Rabbi, mitzvah tzrichas kavana. Says the Gemara, you're passing by what? In kiven liba yaitza, in kiven not yaitza. Afraid the Gemara on Rava, you see, you need kavana. And for the Gemara, you're not being mechaven for the mitzvah. You're mechaven to discern that it's not a donkey rather than the sound of a human being. That's what mechaven. But in the chinami, the level of what of level 1 of both of kiven the shmoya l'shem mitzvah that you don't need. All you need is level 2 that you're mechaven for the action of hearing, but not something that to ascertain without a shadow of a doubt that it's a human being rather than an animal. Says the Gemara again. Another question on a Rabbi. Again, we're continuing to question Rabbi who holds mitzvahs einet tzrichas kavana. Niskavin shameya, v'lein niskavin mashmiya. The one who hears has kavana. The one who hears has kavana. Again, this is in Hilchas Shofar. Hilchas Shofar. The one who hears has kavana. V'lo niskaven mashmiya, and the Baltakeya is not miskaven. Mashmiya v'lo niskaven shemeya. The one who's blowing has kavana, and the one who is listening does not. Lo yatsa. In other words, you won't be yatsa. You need both. Ashiskaven shemeya u'mashmiya. Good. So then in Hilchas Shofar, halacha l'maisa, right? Everyone, the Baltakeya has to have in mind, and the person here has to have in mind. So basic question on Rava. L'chayra, if mitzvah and tzrichas kavana, why by Tekiya Shofar do you need kavana? Now, what are you going to tell me? Bishleim niskaven mashmiya, niskaven v'loy niskaven shemeya, kasava chamor ba'almahu. Bishleim, where the mashmiya was niskaven and the shemeya was not, that kasava, he hold that it was the sound of a donkey. How's it possible that Baltakeya does not have kavana and the shemeya does? It must be it must be the one who's blowing. He's not blowing for the purpose of being yaitza anybody, for the purpose of the mitzvah. He must be he's blowing for the purpose of making a song. And nonetheless, what? You're not yaitza. Kashan Ravu said you are yaitza. Again, Rabbi said, guys, on the Amid Aleph, Rabbi said Takeya l'shir. You be yaitza. That's Rava. And over here we see that what? That you're not yaitza. Kashan Rava. If Rava holds mitzvah saying tzrichas kavana, over here you see mitzvah tzrichas kavana. Says the Gemara. No, we're going to change the gears. Maybe over here it's not where he was mechaven for the action. Maybe he was not mechaven for the action at all. Maybe he was barking. Barking means like boop, 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 boop. So if you look at Taisvis explains exactly what's going on. Third Taisvis down. Literally barking. Pirish b'kuntris. The eina toikeya kishir tkiya. Hamafurish mishnah seinu. He's not blowing the length of time that you need. Right? That's what he says. V'kosha dem kain afilu neskaven amilei nothing. If he's not blowing the proper shear, forget about kavana. Even without kavana, even with kavana. Venerally. So now Tosfos is going to explain Rashi. Venerally, again, very rare Tosfos that he tries to explain Rashi. The person decided he's going to blow for 2 seconds. And he extended it to 4 or 5 seconds. In other words, when he started off, he didn't have a mind to blow the proper shear, and then he changed his mind. That's what Kunshas wants to say. So over here, in this case, it's very good. The reason why you're not yaitza, because the person did not do the action. He didn't do the complete action. Guys, remember the way we're frameworking this. One, mechaven for the action and the mitzvah. Over here, the person was not mechaven for neither. He wasn't mechaven for the action because he wanted to blow less than the shear, and certainly he wasn't mechaven for the mitzvah. And therefore, lo yatza, and therefore Rava holds serve that mitzvah lav lehenes nitnu. Mitzvah, excuse me. Mitzvah in tzrichas kavana. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Mitzvah in tzrichas kavana. I'm mixed up. I'm sorry. Amalei Abaya. Elamiyata. Again, we're questioning. You Rava hold again. What do you Rava hold? You hold mitzvahs lav lehenes nitnu. Mitzvahs is not for the purpose of anah. I'm going to question that. Hayashem b'shmini b'sukkah. Shmini atzeres, you're in a sukkah, and you're sleeping in the sukkah. You shouldn't be in there. Yilka, you're going to get malchus. Right? Now, why are you getting malchus? Pashtus, because you were in the sukkah and you thought you're being yoitz of the mitzvah. On the 8th day, you're moisav on the mitzvah. You're being over on Bal Toisif. Right? So what's the kasha? If mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana, so why would I be yaitza? Why would I get malchus over here, guys? I'm sleeping there shaloi l'shem mitzvah, right? Look at Rashi. Hayashim, the second small line. Hayashim b'shmini b'sukkah shaloi l'shem mitzvah. I was sleeping there not the same mitzvah. Yilka, I'm going to get malchus. Now you just told me that a person who doesn't have kavana, right? They miskaven the mitzvah, can miskaven dami. So what? Says Ishayim Ma'asav ala mitzvah v'oivim b'shum bal toisif. So l'chayr, what's the kasha? Elamiyata, if you're telling me, Rava, that if you're not mechaven, it's like you're mechaven Hayoshe b'shmin v'sukkah yilka. You should get malchus. That's the kasha. You should get malchus, guys. You should get malchus. You lock it. Shall you be meisav ala mitzvah? In other words, not that you do get malchus. You should get malchus. One more time. I thought I understood this before. No, guys, listen up. Look at me. Eye contact. Eye contact. You're telling me, Rava, that mitzvahs in tzrichas kavana, meaning level 2 is going to equal level 1. That I was mechaven for a certain act, but not the mitzvah. It's like I'm doing the mitzvah. Good. Now, I'm in a sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. There's no mitzvah to be in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres whatsoever. According to you, Rava, you should, if you're sleeping in the sukkah, I was mechaven for the act of sleeping, and automatically, if I'm mechaven for the act of sleeping, it's like a mechaven for the mitzvah. I should be, in fact, get a malchus for being over on the Isser of Baal Toisef, adding on to the 7 days of Sukkot, an 8th day. And we know you don't get malchus for sleeping in the sukkah on the 8th day, on Shmini Atzeres. That's a bias kasha l'rava. Freg the baya nachama. Freg the baya. Elamiata. If you're going to tell me that when you don't have kavana, it's like you do have kavana, hayoshem b'shmini b'sukkah. If someone sleeps on the 8th day in a sukkah, yilaka, he should get malchus because his act, he was mechaven for the act of sleeping, and it should be equal to go ahead and be over Baal Taisif. Amaloi said Abba to Abaya, Shani Omer, mitzvahs eina over aleim ela bizmanon. You know when there's Baal Taisif? When you're in the ballpark of being Yaitz of the mitzvah. On the 8th day, you're out of the ballpark, you're out of bounds. There's no Baal Taisif. Mitzvah ain't tzrichas kavana. You know why you don't get malchus on the 8th day? Simply because there's no Baal Taisif, because there's no mitzvah. The mitzvah is only 7 days. Sleeping in on an 8th day is not being moisif on anything. Moisif is when I'm in the, if I'm a chiyav to wear tzitzis and I add a 5th string to the tzitzis, right? I'll be over on Baal Taisif. Why? Because every time you wear tzitzis, there's a ballpark of a mitzvah. On the 8th day, there's no mitzvah to be in a sukkah. Memela, it's not shaykh Baal Taisif. But in Achanami, says Abaya, says Rava, mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana.
So even if he was mechavein, he wouldn't get malchus?
Won't get malchus, won't make a difference. Masir Rav Shamin bar Abba, says Rav Shemin bar Abba, minayin l'koye. Again, we're attacking Rava. We're attacking Rava Shita. Rava holds that what? That mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana. Minayin l'koye, she'oil l'duchin, a coin that goes up to the duchin. Shlo yoymar, he shouldn't say, Hoyel v'nas Torah reshus levarach es Yisrael. Oisef bircha achas mishali. You know what? There's 3 sets of brachas. Yerecha Hashem. I'm going to add on another one. Kigoyin Hashem elokei avoseichem Yosef aleichem. How do you know that what? You shouldn't do this. Tamar leimar lo yisaysifu al adavar. Don't be meisef on anything. Fred the Gemara v'ahacha kivin the baruch lei avalei zmanei v'katani the avar. Oh, so now, what was your teretz, guys? Outside, guys, outside. Look at me, guys, outside. What was your teretz? You know why you're over on Baal Taisif? Because it's out of bounds. L'chayra, once I gave my 3 brachas, I'm out of bounds. And nonetheless, if I would go ahead and add another bracha, if I was a kayin, I'd be over on Baal Taisif. So who adin, I should be over on Shmini Atzeres, sleeping in the sukkah. If you hold mitzvahs, tzrichas kavana. I'm proving that out of bounds is in bounds. Where am I proving it from? I did the 3 brachas. I did what I did. L'chayra I'm yotze the mitzvah, and now I'm adding another bracha. So who did the 8th day? I mean, I'm out of bounds. I'm out of bounds. Like just like Birchas Kohanim, you're out of bounds. You're on Baal Taisif. So too by Shmini Atzeres, I'm out of bounds. It's Baal Taisif. As I fragged about Shemin bar Abba is asking Rava. Says the Gemara, and for the Gemara, no. Hachamay askinon. You're still in bounds, guys. You didn't finish the bracha. You want to add the bracha, your 4th bracha within the 3. You want to add within those brachas. Says the Gemara about Tanya Sayim. You said when you complete it, saying Gemara Sayim bracha achas. I finished the 1st set. Yisimcha Yivrechacha Hashem Yishmecha. Right? I finished that. Good. And then I added. So I'm still in bounds. Right? It says all the brachas. Mashma I'm out of bounds already. Since I'm out of bounds, I'm still over Bal Toisif. Hajo koshel duchte by Shmini Atzeres. After the Gemara Shani Hacha by Berchas Kahanim, Kivon the Ilu Misramulate Tzibur Achrina. Since if another tzibur would show up, Hadim Avorich, right? Kuli Yumas Manihu. In other words, what did you think? You're duchening, right? I finished my 3 brachas, I'm finished. No. What happens if another set of guys come up? Were you able to give him bracha? Yeah. So Memela, you're still in bounds. Mashenkin Shmini Atzeres is out of bounds. It's after the 7th. So your tzushtel, your kasha from Birchas Kahana to Shmini Atzeres is this kind kasha. And the teretz I gave you is a good teretz. The reason why Shmini Atzeres is no Bal Toisif is because you're out of bounds. You see that that Birchas Kahanim, even though you're out of bounds, there's a din about Toisif. No, Birchas Kahanim is still in bounds because if another group shows up, there's still a bracha to give Birchas Kahanim. Okay. On that, we're gonna try to prove that the whole day, even though you did a mitzvah, since the whole day is a mitzvah, you consider it in bounds, right? Again, I did my mitzvah Birchas Kahanim, but since another group might come, so it's considered in bounds, I'm going to prove that. We're not tamer that even though you did the mitzvah, still since another possibility exists, you're still in bounds. The time following Mishnah. Okay, outside guys. By Kachim, we know by various Kabbanis, there's different mitzvahs regarding the sinas dam. Well, if you say Kabbanis, you say it every day, right? Basically, there are Kabbanis that a shtaim shein arba, you put 2 that are 4, but they're considered 4. There's a chatas, you put all 4, and there's Pesach, Bechor, and Maisa, which is 1. Good. So, for all intents and purposes, when we say 4, it can be it's shtaim shein arba. It's an oila, it's an asham, it's a shlamim. Okay. Now, let's say it gets mixed together, a 1 and a 4. What do you do? Do you do 4? Do you do 1? What do you do? So that's the discussion over here. If you do 1, you might be over Bal Tigra, diminishing. If you do all 4, you might be over Bal Toisim on the 1, and that's going to be the dialogue vis-a-vis being in bounds. Since even though you did the mitzvah, you'll still be in bounds because the rest of the day is still there. How do you know you'll still be in bounds if the rest of the day is still there? The time. Hanitonim matana achas, a korban that is given with 1 matana. Shenis arvu binitonim matana achas. So you get a bechor that gets mixed with meiser. You know, matana achas, give 1. We'll say yesh bila. We'll say it's mixed together, and you put it on. And you get a little bit from both, and you're totally good. Matan dom dalid matan dalid. You get an oil mixed with a shlamim. You know, matan dalid. You give 4, no problem. Now it gets interesting. Matan dalid matan achas. What happens if a shlamim gets mixed with a bechor? So it's a 2 and a 1. Rabbi Eliezer oimer yinasim matan dalid. You give 4. Rabbi Yeshua oimer yinasim matan achas. You give 1. Amalei Rabbi Eliezer says you give 4. Hari over abal tigra. If you only put 1, you're being over on diminishing the 4. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua Hari over abal toisif. If you put 4, you're being over on the bal toisif on the bechar. So Amalei Rabbi Eliezer loy nemu bal toisif ela kashu batzmai. We only say bal toisif when it's by itself, not when it's mixed together. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua loy yomer bal tigra ela kashu atzmai. We only say bal tigra when it's by itself. Void in addition, Amalei Rabbi Yeshua kishaloi nasna avarta bal tigra. Says Rabbi Yeshua, guys, let's say you're supposed to put 1 or 4 and you don't do anything. You would be over on Bal Tigra even without an action, right? But when you put, you're being over on Bal Toisif. But Sisa Maisa Biyotcha. So guys, listen to this Pashtus Svara. It's much more severe to be over in Avera by Kumba say by doing an action than being over in Asay by sitting around and Shev al Tasei, sit and not doing an action. Right? Clearly, an action is worse than not doing an action. So what am I doing over here? Let's say I, Rabbi Yeshua, hold you only do 1. I'm worried about Bal Toisif. You say you do 4, you're worried about Bal Tigra. If you're worried about Bal Tigra, don't do any. You know why? Don't do any. You'll be over Bal Tigra. Why? You didn't do any. You're supposed to do 4, you did 0. So then, if you're correct that you're worried about Bal Tigra, don't do anything. You'll be over the Issa by Shev al Tasi by sitting around doing nothing rather than doing action. So why are you doing anything? Bal Toisif. Okay, I'll do 1, and that's good. So now, okay, over here, once you put a matana by bechar, overlay lizmane, the katani, the oven mishum bal toisif. Lav mishum darminon kiven the ilam isramile bechar achrina Hoda mazla mine kula yuma zmane. Okay, guys, outside. What happened over here? Says Rabbi Yeshua, when one gets mixed with four, I'm going to only do one. Do you know why? Because if I would do two, you'd be over on Baal Taisif. Now, Pashtus, as soon as the Bechor, it's a one-shot deal, right? It's this one thing. And why do I say that once I put one, I'm Yaitza, and anything else is out of bounds? The answer is because since a Bechor will come later on in the day, it's like another group of people coming for the Birchas Kohanim to give. I want to prove something. I want to prove that even though I did an action, I gave 3 brachas, if I wanted to add a 4th, I'll be all over Baal Taisif, because the rest of the day, another group may come. Who would then over here, where I did 1 Bechor, I'm over on Baal Taisif, because another Bechor might come the rest of the day. That's his raya. Says the Gemara, Dilma Kasav Rabbi Yeshua mitzvahs over alayim afilu shlei bizmana. In other words, l'chayra, you have no raya. Maybe he holds that what? That even over alayim afilu shlei bizmana, even you would be over, Rabbi Yeshua is of the opinion you'll be over Baal Taisif, even shlei bizmana. Maybe he holds that you would be over on sitting in a sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. It's not this man. Maybe he holds like it is this man, like the kasha of Rav Shomein bar Abba. Says no. Here's what I meant to say. Rav Shomein bar Abba, my time is shovik masnisa and umaysim brisa. Why did Rav Shomein? Why did he ask from the brisa of Birchas Kahanim when he could have asked from the Mishnah of Dam? This is the Mishnah in Zvachim. He should have asked from this Mishnah. Luciv masnisan. So masnisan my time alay moisif. Why didn't he ask from the Mishnah? Even the Ilu Misrami Lord Bukhrachrina, because since he would have found another Bechor, boy Mazamine, would have to sprinkle from it. Kuliyum is manahu, right? The whole day is also. So Braisanami, Kivan the Misrami Tzibur Achrina, Hadam Avarach Kuliyum is mana. So that's his kasha. Why didn't he ask why from the Mishnah? And Rabbi Shimon said the Chayr, it's the same svara, exact same svara. One's a svara that you just like the rest of the day, who are then over here is the rest of the day. Now, so why didn't Rav Shimon ask from the Mishnah? Guys, again, one more time, let me be a little more clear. Birchas Kahanim 3, you're over if you had 1 about Taisif, because the rest of the day, another group will come. 1 by Bechor, you're over about Taisif, you do the other 3, because the rest of the day Bechor will come. Why didn't Reb Shemin ask from Bechor, which is a Mishnah, rather than Birchas Kahanim, which is a Brisa? So there must be a reason. What's the reason? You don't have to give the Birchas Kahanim. You do have to go ahead and sprinkle the dam. That's the difference. Says the Gemara, Rav Shemin bar Ava. You know why he asked from the Brisa of Birchas Kahanim rather than the Mishnah of Bechor? Hasan by Bechor le'sagid ol yav. You have no option. You have to do it. Once it's shachtin, the blood's in front of you guys, you can't leave it overnight. You got to do it. Hacha over here, he boy mevarach, he boy loy mevarach. Here he wants to, he can, he wants to not. So therefore, what I felt it's more of a raya that he has the rest of the day to do it. Therefore, I asked from there. Now, guys, Rava, we have a kasha on Rava. What's the kasha on Rava? Shmini Atzeres. Rabbi said mitzvahs tzrichas kavana, so therefore you should get malchus and shmini atzeres, right? So Rabbi said that what he gave a teretz of out of bounds. That's out of bounds. This is in bounds. Rabbi says the following teretz: Lotzish leboy kavana. To be yoytze the mitzvah, you do not need kavana. Lavor boy kavana. That to be over on Baal Taisif, you would need kavana. So I'm sitting in a sukkah on the 8th day. So what's the kasha? Since you don't need kavanah for the mitzvah, it should be like I'm a chavim for the mitzvah. Whether you don't need kavanah for the mitzvah is to do the mitzvah. To be over on the mitzvah, that I would need kavanah for. Sleeping without kavanah for the mitzvah, I would be yaitza. Again, very good. By to be yaitza the mitzvah, I'm blowing a shofar, and I'm not mechavein, right? For the mitzvah, I could be yaitza because I'm mechavein for the action, right? Masha enkein to be over in aveira, to say, if I'm not mechavein to sleep in a sukkah, to sleep for the shem mitzvah, I'm not over. In order to be over, you have to have kavanah to sleep in a sukkah shaloi the shem mitzvah.
So according to this teretz, if he had kavanah, even though it's Shmini Atzeres, he would get malchus.
I'm not sure. You have to see the guidelines of Baal Tosef. You have to see the guidelines of Baal Tosef. According to this, you're right. According to this, you would be right. Okay? Now, for Matin Damim, the Rabbi Yeshua de la Avar v'lei boy kavana. Over here, guys, when he's sprinkling for the Bechar, and he does it one more time, he doesn't have in mind the Bechar, he has in mind the Shlomim that's mixed in. And nonetheless, he's over. So you see, it's not a good svara that you're saying. You could be over about Tosef, even when you don't have kavana. You want to say that what, in order to be what? So you'll see in a second, Rabbi Rosenzweig, why I'm a supik in your. You want to go ahead, what, and say that since I didn't have kavana to be sitting in a sukkah, I'm not over. So what are you going to say? Since I didn't have kavana to sprinkle for the bechor, I also should be over, but I am. So you see that what, that it's not a good teretz. El Amarava, Lotzes Leboy Kavana, all right? Lavor, Amar Lotzes Leboy Kavana, Lavoi Bismano, Loy Boy Kavana, Shaloi Bismano, Boy Kavana. To be over on Baal Tosef, right? To be over on Baal Tosef, Bismano, Loy Boy Kavana. Shaloi Bismano, Boy Kavana. So watch. Over here, since it's this man of this Rika, I won't need kavanah to be over Baal Tosef. Masha Einkein by Yeshiva Sukkah, since it's not bismanoi, in order to be over, I would have to be machavim for the mitzvah. And Pashtas, it's like Rabbi Rosenzweig said that you would be over Baal Tosef. Why? Because I had kavanah to do the mitzvah shaloi bismanoi. So let's see Yitzim Intervena. Let's see what we saw this evening. We saw. You can see why this guy's Gemara is not a Daf Gemara. We began the Gemara, right? We began the Gemara by discussing whether mitzvahs allow lehenis ninu. Right? We saw the shita of Rava that mitzvahs allow lehenis ninu. Therefore, if you blow with an oila, a shayf of an oila, or if you would blow with a shlamim, or you blow out by the zara, you would be yoitz of the mitzvah. Either rasa bahana, it doesn't make a difference. Mitzvahs allow lehenis ninu. Erni dachas is the same. You don't have a shayfer at all. That was the first chelik, the sugya. We also said, if someone has enough from mischaver, you would, as long as it's a mitzvah, you would not be yaitza. But if you simultaneously, if you would have hana that has nothing to do with the mitzvah, like it's being toivel in a mayon, or your friend who you would enough from sprinkles on you in the summer. So there's two aspects. You're having hana of the mitzvah being metahar, but you're also having a physical hana of getting wet. Then taka will be able to do it because that's not part of the mitzvah, and you're having enough from your friend. Then we got into the sugya of mitzvah srichas kavana regarding what kiyah shayfa, you take the share, not the share. Now, and we miyaseh, the only way the shayla is when you're mechavim for the action itself. You have to have kavana for the action. If you don't have kavana for the action, that's not what we're talking about. The question is, I had kavana to the action, but I didn't have kavana to the mitzvah, yaitza not. Says Rabbi, you would be yaitza. We asked on Rabbi, why would you, for example, if you hold mechavein creates a, like you were mechavein, therefore, why would it didn't be by what? By Yeshiva Sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. The Chayri should get Malchus, because after all, you're sleeping in there, and sleeping in there is tantamount for sleeping the L'Shem Mitzvah. And for the Gemara, no, the final teretz of the Gemara, sleeping the L'Shem Mitzvah would only be if you're there bismanoi. Bismanoi. In other words, if I was doing an action bismanoi, wearing tzitzis bismanoi, shaking two lulavim at the same time, bismanoi. If I'm shaking two lulavim and Purim, of course I'm not going to be on Baal Tosef, right? I'm not Baal Tosef. However, if I would have kavana, l'shem, let's say the 8th day, I would have kavana to sleep in the sukkah, l'shem sleeping in the sukkah. With that in mind, then I would be on Baal Tosef. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. I appreciate it very much. Have a good Bach.